So we want to think about our analysis of data now. It's a really useful skill for the GCSE exams. And best way I find to approach this is to use the T.E.A.M analysis. So this stands for trends, evidence, anomalies, and meaning. Okay, and I'm going to show you how we can do this to answer these questions using the Gapminder data. So our first question is, what's the global trend in energy use over time and why? So the why being the meaning. So to do this, we need to open up Gapminder. So you've got a hyperlink here. This is a really, really kind of powerful set of tools here. Lots and lots we can learn from using this. But we're interested in thinking about, particularly kind of for this first one, energy use. So we need to just set this up so that it's going to be useful for us. At the moment, it's showing income along the bottom and it's showing life expectancy. And I guess from here we can see, the higher income countries have a higher life expectancy. As we'd expect, someone like Singapore does very well on both, or Qatar does very well on both, and someone like Central African Republic doesn't do so well on both of those. And that's what it's showing us at the moment. So, but we're going to set this up to show change over time. So click on this bottom one at the bottom. I'm just going to change my x-axis to time. Now, later on, you might want to look at whether you display your data kind of logarithmically or linearly. So here's now the kind of change over time. You can see time's kind of changed in the background now for the life expectancy. Generally, we see that increasing as we'd expect with development. Now, we're not so interested in life expectancy today. So I'm going to change this to energy. So think about resources. There's lots of different options on this y-axis. So I just click on there. It says life expectancy, and I can pull up all these different links. So for energy, we said we're interested in total energy, and we're looking at energy use per person. Okay, so how has that changed over time? That gives you a bit of a definition of what it is. Or energy production we could look at, but we're going to look at energy use per person to start with. Now, you'll notice that lots of these countries are grayed out. Now, that's because there isn't necessarily data for them going back. Whereas when we start running it forwards, the number of countries that come up on here should, in theory, increase. And actually, you can see bubbles increasing. So actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my x-axis scale. And I'm not going to start it until 1970, because that's when it seems like lots more data becomes available. I guess before that, lots of emerging countries didn't have it. So I'm going to click on this options, time, forecast, no, X and Y, so minimum, right. So now I'm going to change this. Let's go 1975. Okay, that gives us benefit will have all the most recent data, but let's find out. Right, so now you see lots of the more of these are available for us to look at. So I can just run this as it is, but because I've set the there we go, and it starts showing at 1975. Okay, now that's not so useful. Now I can pause it. I can see there's a country here at the top, Qatar. Okay, I can see there's India, these big ones, China. Now, it shows me here that the size of the square is linked to the population. I can change that, but we're going to keep that down to population. I can turn on the US. I can turn on UAE, whatever ones I want, really. Luxembourg, Belgium, Norway, Netherlands, South Korea, Russia. You see, once I've selected them, they come here. You can also search for them. So if there's a country you're particularly interested in, so like Cameroon, I can only go and turn that on through this option here. Now what I'm going to do, drag this back, run it again, and hopefully now it's going to have trails on, so it will show me the change when it comes onto the screen. There we go. Okay, well that's a beautiful mess, isn't it? So in terms of us trying to think about analysing this, now next thing we're going to do is take a print screen of this. So for me, that's the best way to do it. Snipping tool. And I can copy and paste it onto here. Format it. If you put it into a table, I'll show you. I'll do that for you. If you insert a table into it kind of just formats it a little bit more easily, and I can do my analysis here. So, what's the trend this is showing? Actually, do you know what? there's not a massively clear trend in there, is there? What we can see is energy use per person from 1975 up into 2015 in the majority of countries hasn't really changed that much. Okay, so no significant change in energy use per person since 1975. Maybe there's a sort of slight, and this is where go back onto the data can be useful. We might want to turn some of these off. Maybe we've got a few too many, which is kind of confusing the issues. Let's get not both India and China. So okay, now we can see the US has kind of stayed fairly stable. Russia's actually dropped and then stabled, and China has kind of slowly increased from 2000 onwards. Somewhere like Qatar has also slightly dropped. This is Qatar, but it's that's increased. So bit of an unclear picture. No significant change in energy use per person since 1975. We could say slight increase in China from 2000. America remained stable. Slight decrease in use in energy, and Russia. In energy in Russia and Qatar. So that's kind of generally what the trend is. There's no clear trend in that, and it's really important that we feel that we're confident to say no trend if that's the case. I mean, our evidence for that. Now we can go and we can say that energy use remains. In the US, we've already got some data in here, evidence, because we've talked about how it hasn't changed since 1975 in China. But what we can do is we can go back and we can look at our y-axis. So China starts at 487, and we can look at units here. Well, it doesn't. We can click on also, but 487, and it increases to 2,240. So there is actually a fairly significant change there. But yeah, from 400, from around about 500 to 2,200. So we could say I have evidence to support what we were saying before. China increases from 484 per person. I'm not sure what the units is on actually, without looking more carefully. That's all right for now. To more than 220, sorry, 22,000, 2,200 per person. In how many years? So 1975, 85, 95, 2005, 2015, so in 40 years. So that is actually a pretty big increase. That's kind of 4 times as much, isn't it? So maybe we need to go back and say increase in China from 2000. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess, why it's useful for us to kind of check back onto this and to put that evidence in and to check, right, anomalies are A. So anomalies is kind of data that doesn't fit. So Qatar is our big anomaly here. Has a much higher energy use per person than any other country shown. And then meanings. Right, what does this graph tell us? I guess it says that in the developed countries, this is where we have to kind of apply our knowledge, have seen little to no increase in energy use per person. Like, if you want to go into a lot of depth, that's largely due to the fact that actually industry has kind of moved away from energy intensive industry due to moving away from energy intensive secondary industry like factories, but higher domestic use. So we probably use more in our homes now, but we don't necessarily use so much in industry. Emerging countries, such as China and India, have seen big increases as the population has become more economically developed. I guess if they have more money, they're likely to use more energy, and also their industries change. So, trend, what's the overall pattern? Evidence, what's our using the data? Anomalies, is there anything that doesn't fit it? Meaning, and why is that? Now, the meanings are going to be the hardest. But, what we're doing there is a really good analysis of that data. So that's the way we can lay this out. Our next one, we're looking at coal, nuclear, and hydro production. Okay, so I'm not going to do this for you, but I'll just remind you. We want to go back to this. We now want to go back onto energy. We can first come up with coal consumption. How's that changed over time? Run the data as it comes up. Okay, a bit more of a pattern here, a bit more of a steady increase. Russia's stayed the same, but look at China there. Okay, huge increases in coal consumption in China. So we can do the same thing, screenshot that, put it into our data, and explain how that looks. Okay, I might suggest this time, you can do it on beneath or beneath the whole thing. We've got 3 there. We could just do something more simple. We could go 1, 2, 3, 3. And we put the data here, and we can explain it down the side. Okay, so that's what it's done. You've got a few different things to explore, and hopefully you find that really interesting. Look forward to seeing the results of your research. See you soon.